So at this point, I guess you're asking yourself, what does this have to do with data-driven instruction? One thing we do a great job of in education that we don't get enough credit for is making data-driven decisions. We take the data collected from our formative and summative assessments and we make decisions based off of that. From the data, we often group our students in 3 groups: high, middle, and low. The number one characteristic of a high student is that they're performing on a high level based on the data. Other typical characteristics of high students are that they have good behavior, supportive parents, and they're hardworking. We define low students as students that don't perform well based on data. Typical characteristics of low students are they have disruptive behavior, unstable homes, and they're lazy or apathetic. We define middle students as students that are barely meeting the standard when we give them assessments, or students that are just below meeting the standard when we give them an assessment. All of this is based on our data. So typical characteristics of middle students are they have good behavior, supportive parents, and they're hardworking. But we also have middle students that have disruptive behavior, unstable homes, and they're lazy or apathetic. We often refer to these middle students as bubble students. But what exactly is a bubble student? Bubble students are complicated because that's one nut we can't seem to crack. And that's from campus to campus, state to state. Everyone struggles when it comes to bubble students. In my opinion, I think the reason why we have a consistent struggle with these students is because we keep using the same data to determine how to serve these students. Right now, we're using formative and summative assessments. And from there, we have data. But what about the variables that the data doesn't tell us? A variable is any factor, trait, or condition that can exist in differing types. I remember a while back, I was walking campuses with a district data specialist. We were paired together to walk campuses to assess the restorative efforts on each of these campuses. As we walked these campuses, she said something that was really profound to me. I actually wish somebody had told this to me when I first started teaching. She said that when she looks at the district data, whether it's assessment data or whether it's discipline data, she recognizes that every number has a story. The reason that was so profound is it's so true. Every number that we see has a story behind it. I've often said that the student that I worry for the most in our schools are students that struggle academically but have good behavior. Those are the students I worry about more than any other student in our school. The reason why is because we rarely try to understand the story behind their data. A student with disruptive behavior has a better opportunity for someone to understand their story because their behavior is calling attention to their story. But the thing about our students that struggle academically but have good behavior is they know how to hide. They know how not to call attention to themselves, which is detrimental to their success. We need to unlock the variables that are keeping these students from achieving. We can't continue to look at the same data over and over and over and think something is going to change. The reason I believe community building circles are essential in every classroom today is because we need to hear from these students with good behavior but struggle academically. We need to hear their voices and learn about the variables that may be keeping them from achieving the level of success that we know they're capable of achieving. The biggest misconception about circles or restorative practices as a whole is that it's just for students that disrupt our school. I would argue with anybody that that is far from the case. It's really about giving a voice to the voiceless. And those students that are consistently disrupting our schools are not the voiceless. They already have a very loud voice in our schools, and restorative practices helps them channel their voice in a more productive manner. But nothing we do should only be about 10% of our kids. We need to focus on helping 100% of our kids. And the easiest way to do this is give 100% of our students a voice in our school.